Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we're familiar with boats, because this week we watched The Androids of Tara.
Written by David Fisher, again.
Directed by Michael Hayes.
And aired November and December of 78. So, David Fisher's second story.
Yeah, third person in a row to write 2 stories in a row. No, not third person in a row, but third person to write 2 stories in a row.
Right.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes. And this one was a considerable step up from his last effort. Use that word deliberately.
I was gonna say. Yeah, this serial was pretty much in every way much better. In my opinion, at least.
Yes. There are a few key points of me not liking it.
Key points of contention, if you will.
Yeah, but overall, it was pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. So I think it begins with the Doctor and Romana and the TARDIS.
Yeah, the Doctor's playing chess with K9.
Again.
Mate in 11, I guess. And Romana comes over and she's like, oh, mate in 12. And K9's like, incorrect. Mate in 11. Do not underestimate me. So I guess either they play chess on Gallifrey or someone just taught her.
I don't know.
Because she knows how, apparently.
I also like the Doctor's line that he saw this move in some famous chess match, and then Kanon's like, that person lost that chess match. And he's like, oh, did he? Well, So that was interesting, but then the Doctor's like, well, I guess we should go look for the next piece of the key to time. So
yeah, we should probably start doing that.
We should probably do what we're tasked with doing, and also not being paid for.
What we've been blackmailed into doing.
Under duress.
So they materialize on Tara, which is where the next piece is, and the Doctor actually doesn't want to go look for it. He wants to go fishing.
Yeah, this is one of the few things I actually didn't like about this serial. The Doctor just decides that after years of traveling in space and time, he's just gonna go fishing.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't taken a day off so far. Doesn't seem like, but...
Doesn't this all count as his day off? I mean, he ran away from Gallifrey. Like, isn't this just basically an extended vacation?
I guess. But Romana is pretty upset that he wants to just go fishing. Actually,
understandably.
She doesn't know what fishing is at first.
Yeah, so she's like, well, I'm going to take this, and I'll be back in 2 hours with the key, and then we can leave. And I bet you I can do it better than you. And the Doctor's like, okay. So she goes off and immediately finds the key to time, proving that she is better than the Doctor, until she immediately also gets captured by Grendel.
Yeah, of course it's not that easy. Tara, I guess we can describe, sort of looks like they just drove out about an hour into the countryside. But the planet and setting was pretty interesting, in my opinion, and we can get into more about why that is a little later.
Yeah.
But, yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah. So Grendel's trying to play up this whole he's a nice guy and he's not going to hurt Romana thing. And he's like, hey, just come to my castle. We'll have a good time. And she's like, no, I'm good. And she just picks him up. He just picks her up. He's like, nope, we're going to my castle.
Yeah, he's like a knight or someone like that.
He's like a Graf.
Yeah, he's like the Graf Vindicate.
That's what I thought when he said it. He's the Count Grendel of Gracht.
Right, so this serial has sort of a medieval, but it's like a science medieval, I don't know, science Middle Ages.
Science Middle Ages. Good.
And he there's some creature that's about to attack Romana, right? And he kills it or something like that.
Like a bear or something, and Grendel's like, back.
Yeah, it was like that little Ewok thing.
The bear runs away. Grendel's like, these are my hunting grounds. What are you doing here? And she's like, I'm a stranger. Just kind of wandered on through.
So, yeah, that's when he picks her up and takes her off, and she's like, no, it's okay. I can just take this piece of the key to time and leave. And he's like, no, really, no, don't do that.
You don't want to do that, no.
The piece was actually part of a statue.
Yeah, it was just like a rock.
It was, wasn't it the little dragon thing? Because the
Yeah.
statue was a guy and a dragon, and the piece was the dragon.
Yep. So she's already actually got the piece. I'm glad they decided to discard the we have to think of a reason why the scanner's not working plotline.
Well, one of the few things I didn't like about this serial was it's not really a key to time serial. It's just they kind of find it and they misplace it, and then everything else goes on.
I preferred that to the previous two serials, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, I liked Pirate Planet, but I preferred the conceit that they lost the key to time rather than the scanner's not working conceit.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of just makes it a regular serial and sort of throws the key to time plot out the window. So like this could have taken place
they've been throwing
anywhere.
it out anyway. Like the whole scanner's not working was just a reason for them to get thrust into the plot.
Last
and then
week was stupid.
They just straight up don't even talk about it for 3 episodes until the 4th episode.
But Pirate Planet was good. It was part of that big mystery.
I guess.
Last week it was just stupid because last week's serial was just stupid, but...
But it's like Pirate Planet could have been just fine without that conceit. Like, they would have just shown up, been like, hey, what the heck is going on here? Gone through the whole mystery, found out that they're shrinking planets, and then...
And it would have been worse for it.
Not really.
Yeah.
It would have been about the same.
No,
Yes.
really it wouldn't.
No, it would have been...
If you're gonna make an overarching plot line about finding the key to time, don't just discard it in one of the serials.
They've already discarded it, so, like, I'm not faulting this serial for doing it, first off. And second off, I think it worked fine in this serial.
Well, I didn't like it. Just simply because this could have taken place anywhere. But they just threw it in here anyway. Anyway, the Doctor has also run into some shady characters, except these are the good shady characters.
Yeah, yes. They're like, what are you doing on these hunting grounds? Like, you're gonna get yourself killed? And he's like, oh, these are hunting grounds? Well,
They're like, have you ever heard of Grendel?
Count Grendel Graft.
And he's like, Grendel Graft? No, I haven't heard of him. These are two other soldier-looking guys. So they take in the Doctor. They've both been captured at this point. Only K9 is left to save the day.
Yeah,
and he pretty much does.
The Doctor's found by the swordsmen Zadok and Farah.
Wasn't there another pretty important character named Zanuck in, like, a previous serial?
Maybe. Maybe that was last week and we didn't catch it.
No, I don't think it was last week.
It was recently, but we have Zadok now. See, the key difference is that it's a D and not an N.
Oh, whatever.
So
He wasn't that important.
They take the Doctor to the Prince Reinhardt, and Zadok keeps wanting to kill the Doctor, and Ferric is like, no, we gotta keep him alive because he looks pretty important and he knows about androids.
Was Zadok the guy who kept trying to pull his sword on everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, this guy, I guess this guy's a new recruit because he draws his sword at every turn of the corner.
It's like the medieval equivalent of having a quick trigger finger.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, thank God they didn't give this guy a gun.
Well, they give him an electro sword, which at any rate is more deadly.
Well, turns out it's actually not that deadly.
No, yeah, especially at that end bit where the rules for when the electricity gets activated seem to be completely and utterly random.
Yeah, but anyway, they sort of reveal a little bit about what's going on after they bring the Doctor to their little hideout.
Yeah, and they show him to Reinhardt and they explain this whole big convoluted plan that they have because they believe Grendel's going to try kill Prince Reinhardt at his coronation the next day. So they've
to take the crown himself, that is.
They've built this android duplicate that they want to use instead.
What could possibly go wrong?
To distract Grendel, and then Reinhardt can get in and get coronated king.
Get in, get crowned, get out.
Crowned. Yeah, basically. Because once he's king, he can just exile Grendel or whatever, you know.
Right. Meanwhile, Romana has been strapped to a table, and by strapped to a table, I mean she's lying on a table, and there's some very, very loose restraints sort of near her.
Yeah, she can just easily escape. Kind of harkens back to that, I don't remember what serial it was now, but when there was just those obvious tinfoil restraints in the one serial.
Yeah, I don't remember which one that was.
No, but I remember it happening. And I remember us noting it in our episode.
So, Grendel brings in Lamia, who is like his head scientist, who's also in love with him. You find out later.
It also has weird snake.
Yeah, she has some sick tats on her face.
Oh, those are tattoos? I thought... Okay, this is gonna sound really dumb, but what I thought she had done was taken, like, individual strands of her hair and, like, gelled it to her face in that shape. Because that's what it looked like, okay? That's what it looked like.
Yeah, it kind of did, but you would assume that's not what she did. Maybe, I don't know.
For some reason, I thought that was more legitimate than tattoos on her face, because who would tattoo their face?
Oh, a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, I know, maybe, but they're not the smartest of the bunch.
Maybe they were tattoos of snakes because her name is Lamia. Like that monster, Lamia.
I don't actually know what you're talking about.
It's like a mythical creature. It's like half woman, half snake.
Huh. That would explain a lot, actually, about the tattoos, that is. Not much about her character.
No. But anyway, she's the head scientist person. And
she's a peasant. Apparently only the peasants know about androids.
Right, there's this weird dichotomy. The nobles and the peasants. Again, I guess part of the whole medieval motif. It's really all there is to say about it. But they keep talking as if Romana is not human.
not Tauren. They make a point of saying later she's also not Tauren.
Yeah. Well, then in a few minutes you find out that they think she's an android.
Yeah, right when they're about to cut her head off.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't mention Romana's outfit.
You mean that lovely purple thing?
Yeah, she looks like Willy Wonka.
Hey, I like Willy Wonka, so I'm okay with it.
Romana in the Chocolate Factory.
Well,
we should also mention Mary Tam's underacting again in this serial. Especially when she was crying for help at the end.
She acts about as much as Tom Baker does.
Well, it's pretty obvious when she's crying for help near the end. She's like, "Doctor, help, help. Help, I'm being captured." No more enthusiastically than...
She's just playing Mary Tam, playing Romana, not Romana.
It's great.
Just like how Tom Baker just plays Tom Baker.
I hope K9 plays K9.
No, John Leeson plays K9. I was actually also going to add that Mary Tam designed this outfit because the original turned out to be made of tweed or something, and I guess Mary Tam wasn't down with tweed.
What's tweed?
I know what it is, but I'm really bad at explaining what tweed is because I'm not really in the fabric business, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty obvious what you mean when you say you're not in the fabric business. No, but we'll just try.
It's
no idea what
just
tweed
try.
is.
Okay. Okay. Have you seen the 11th Doctor's outfit?
Yeah, I mean, I vaguely know what it looks like.
Like the like brown. It's like spun wool. That's probably not accurate at all.
Okay.
But it's like really, I guess, uncomfortable. I'm just going to make this assumption based on Mary Tam's design of this costume. And
all right.
Yeah, it looks kind of like you cross-hatched together lots of really thin strands of wool.
Huh. Okay.
That was probably all 100% inaccurate, but I tried.
All right.
Look, we'll just put a picture and a way better explanation of tweed in the description / show notes.
Okay.
And then, yeah. So, yeah, they think Romana's an android, and she's like, no, but my ankle's all swollen because, like, I tripped, and Lamia's like, oh, it is, so I guess you're not an android. And Romana's like, no, I'm not.
They have a pretty hard time believing it because the princess looks exactly like Romana, the one they have captive.
Yes.
Right, they've taken the princess captive. What was her name?
Strella.
Strella?
It's yet another main character has a doppelganger, and they get confused for them a lot, serial.
Yeah.
Massacre, Enemy of the World. I feel like there's another one that I'm not remembering.
No, I think that's it. I mean, unless you want to count the robot doctor, who wasn't even shown on screen.
No, that doesn't really count.
It was pretty confusing at some points who was who, although it was actually all Romana.
Yeah, Estrella was in jail. Also, they
Yeah.
were wearing completely different outfits that also happened to just be in the same shade of purple.
They weren't completely different. The one
think
just had that gold.
I think the only similarity
on it.
was the purple, because Romana's had some pretty obviously green segments, and Estrella
don't
had
know.
no green segments.
Well, they go for the whole. Is it Strella or is it Romana? Little bit. A
Or
couple
is
times.
it the android Romana and
Yeah,
Estrella,
that
as we
too.
find out later?
And it gets pretty confusing. But Strella actually doesn't show up at all until the end. Well, she
shows
does
up in,
like right
episode
at the
2.
beginning. They show her like
Grendel shows her to Romana.
weaving something in her little
Grendel shows her to Romana, and Romana's like, whoa.
yeah. And then but she doesn't like leave that cell at all.
Yeah, because she's in jail.
Yeah.
Count Grendel captured her somehow.
His plan is to take
His later plan.
He had a
his original
plan.
All of his plans are just horrendously convoluted, and I think we already mentioned that his first one was to try and kill Reinhardt before he takes the throne.
Yeah, that's his like most immediate plan. His other plan is to marry Strella to put him in a position of political power, and he has like a couple other plans, contingency plans based on that plan, but yeah.
Yeah.
Those obviously all fall through
anyway,
cracks.
Getting back to episode 1, the Doctor fixes up the android to look exactly like Reinhardt, and they're like, whoa, how'd you do that? And actually, that's pretty impressive considering what the android looked like when the Doctor got there and didn't have a face. But then Grendel strikes, captures Reinhardt, and they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? And episode 2 begins with the Doctor just going, well, we'll just have the android get coronated, and then we can rescue Grendel.
Yeah, and play it off as it was the
not
actual
Grendel, Reinhardt.
Yeah, rescue Grendel. But the thing is, the android is still. I think it was still a little, on
the speech centers weren't fully tuned or whatever.
Yeah. So they have to press they have to press a switch on its back to make it talk or something like that, because that's what they end up doing at the coronation.
Yeah, the Doctor calls his dog Canine, and the Doctor tells Zadek, whatever.
Xanax. Oh. Xanax, whatever it's
not to
called.
pull his sword.
But he does anyway.
He does, and then Canine zaps it out of his hand. He's like, ah! The dog's like, I told you not to pull your sword.
He still does it like 20 more times, though.
Yeah. But not on the Doctor anymore. Probably because Canine would zap him to death if he did.
And probably because the Doctor's trying to put Reinhardt on the throne.
Yeah, the Doctor's trying to do what they want here.
What if Reinhardt turns out to just be a terrible ruler and Grendel would actually have been a great ruler?
Yeah, the Doctor's making a lot of assumptions based on very little information right now.
I mean, there is the fact that Grendel is pretty hungry for power and also a lot more suspicious than Reinhardt, but that's no proof that he would be a bad ruler. He could bring a new age of prosperity to the planet.
A new golden age. I thought you were going to say that he just looks evil, and that's evidence enough.
Well, in this show, yeah, I guess. And in any show, really. And in real life.
No, that's
sometimes.
Not true. Just look at young Stahl, and you wouldn't think he would come out to be such an evil guy. But he does. Before he loses some of his hair and grows out that sketchy mustache. Anyway, the Doctor and Reinhardt bust through some sort of secret back area along with Freya, whatever. Froyo.
Who's that?
It's the other right-hand man, the non-swordsman one. The swordsman Zadek and something with an F. I said it earlier. Farah.
Yeah.
So they go through the secret entrance. Zadek kills a guard.
Yeah, I didn't know. I
put
had
him
on my death
anyway.
count before I completely lost track. Yeah, that happened.
It's okay, we're not at the point where K9 mows down the whole regiment yet.
The whole regiment? It's a pretty pathetic regiment. 4 guys. So, meanwhile, at the proper entrance, Grendel has shown up, and we are introduced to the He had a cool name, and I was wondering if that was a real word. Archimandrite. Played by Cyril Shaps. Wow.
Oh, hey.
I didn't notice that.
But because he had that hat on and that white beard thing.
Yeah. He's back.
It's our favorite.
5 years after his last role.
Yeah, what was his last role? Was that serial where they...
It was in The Invasion.
Yeah.
Third Doctor serial.
Yeah, that would have been like 5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, that was like actually a year ago for us.
That's
Almost.
true.
Wow. Anyway, he plays the Archimandrite, who is sort of like a high priest. I'm not sure if that's a real word, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, he's gonna crown. Coronate is not a word. He's gonna coronate the king. He's gonna crown
He's gonna anoint
the king. And he's basically like, hey, if he doesn't show up, we're gonna have to crown someone else, and it might be you, Grendel. Not saying anything official. It might be you.
And Grendel's like, oh no, I couldn't possibly take the throne.
Archimandrite's like, oh no, please, it would be my honor.
And then he tells his little assistant, I think I'll refuse the crown once. I wouldn't trust the Archimandrite to offer it to me twice.
But they throw open the doors and Android Reinhardt shows up with this little posse of peeps.
Of the Doctor, Farah, and
Zadek.
Zadek. And
I don't know.
so they go through the whole little speech to crown Android Reinhardt. And he's having trouble speaking.
He limps over at some point. The Doctor quickly saves it and puts him back up to sitting position. And Grendel kind of eyes him suspiciously.
They ask him to make a little speech. The Doctor unsuspiciously reaches behind his back, I guess flips some sort of switch, and he talks like this.
His batteries need to be recharged.
No one notices or cares. Grendel does, but no one else does.
Probably because no one else is familiar with androids. Remember, it's only the peasants who are familiar with androids.
Or they just didn't care. They're like, it's probably an android, but do I really want to get involved in this?
Maybe they didn't care because Romana busts in and is like, I'm gonna pay my respects to the king, and the Doctor's like, no, and grabs the king's staff and beats Romana to death.
Yep, so that's how Romana goes out. I spoiled this like 4 weeks ago. The Doctor actually kills her. No.
It'd be really dark.
It's actually just Strella. No.
It's android Strella.
Just an android. The Doctor just murders Strella. No.
That would also be very dark.
Yeah.
It's revealed that the android was going to kill the king. And it's revealed she was an android when her face falls off because the Doctor beats its face in.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were counting androids on the death count, but I guess we are since they're vaguely sentient.
This is where I started forgetting to keep track, so...
You just got so enamored with the story that...
Yeah, let's go with that.
Right, so now Grendel's like, okay then, well, now we just gotta kill the android Reinhardt and we'll all be good, right? But the Doctor's not having any of that, and they make off with the android Reinhardt back to the little hideout, I guess. I don't know why Reinhardt seems to live in, like, the back of someone's barn house.
Yeah.
When Grendel has an entire castle.
I guess maybe it would be too dangerous for him to be at the castle, because Grendel would know where he is, something like that.
But it's Grendel's personal castle, because he's a count, so he has his own lands. He's just not the king. That's the thing, like... Yeah, that's Grendel's castle. Like, doesn't Reinhardt have his own?
Yeah, maybe it would
castle?
be too dangerous because Grendel maybe has some inside men. That's how I tried to justify it. I don't know why he's in that little house out in the woods.
Like a woodcutter's shack. So they bring the android back, and they're like, well, what are we going to do now? This is in episode 3. What are we going to do now? And the Doctor's like, it's easy. Look, all we got to do is break into the castle. We got to just rescue Reinhardt and Romana, and then, we'll be good. And they're like, we're going to break into the castle.
Right, because we actually didn't mention the entire scene where they actually captured Grendel in episode 1 by poisoning the wine, or whatever
You
that
mean
was.
Reinhardt?
Yeah,
Captured
Reinhardt.
We mentioned that he got captured, but we didn't mention how.
Yeah.
Anyway, they get a message from Grendel offering Romana for basically free passage out of the kingdom for Grendel. And the doc's like, And Zadok and Farah are like, it's obviously a trap. The doc's like, I know, but it's our best shot anyway, so let's go for it. And they're like, okay. Meanwhile, in the castle, we get some Romana talking with the real Reinhardt in prison dialogue.
He reveals more of his convoluted plan and how several of his plans, if I remember correctly, involve killing
That's
Strella
Grendel, not Reinhardt, by the way.
and Reinhardt.
Grendel's the one explaining that all his plans failed.
He's the one who explains that his plans involve killing Strella and Reinhardt.
Yeah. I said that we got more Romana and Reinhardt dialogue. Never mind.
Well, we got that too.
We got all the dialogue. Anyway, they attempt to make another android Romana Strella thing.
They succeed.
What's her name? Zalia?
Lamia.
Lamia is working with a piece of the key to time, and she's like, what is this, Romana? And Romana's like,
maybe it's quartz.
maybe it's, because quartz can break diamond drill bits.
And Lamia's, it's not quartz. Then Romana's like, Grendel's just using you, right? He doesn't actually love you. And she's like, yep, better than nothing, though.
Yeah, well, doesn't seem like Lamia really cares based on what immediately happens. So they go to this little pagoda.
She can't really care after what happens in a little bit.
So they go to a pagoda.
Yeah, it's like a 1-story pagoda.
Just out in the countryside somewhere. The BBC was like, that pagoda looks good, let's go.
I think it was supposed to be Lamia's,
I guess, yeah.
Not house, but like just where she stays. I think they actually constructed that because the walls look like paper. Which that added to why I was interested in the setting. You have the whole medieval Europe motif. It's sort of like sci-fi because they have the androids, but it's also very ancient in like a lot of the architecture and designs. And then you have this Eastern-looking thing.
So Grendel camps outside with some troops, all 4 of them, and Lamia's inside. Lamia's inside, the android Romana's outside, and the doctor and K9 show up. Well, K9 and the doctor inside as Lamia comes in. She's like, oh, you're really supposed to meet at midnight. And the doctor's like, yep, but I wanted to get it out of the way. I was just walking through the neighborhood, and I just wanted to pop in and say hi.
Yeah, luckily Grendel had everything set up, like, however many hours earlier.
So Lamia's like, oh, let me just go get Romana, and she brings her in.
They've created this device and installed it into the android Romana that'll basically kill the doctor as soon as he speaks because it recognizes his voice and zaps him with this blue laser.
Yeah. Something like that. They say that just because they have one line of the doctor's voice, they can recreate his entire voice print or something.
Yeah.
So the doctor hands over the piece of paper, and Lamia's like, kill him now! And K9's like, danger? Not Romana? And the doctor's like, oh? Obviously he knew this. And they decide to make a break for it, and they just run. I don't actually know what the point of this whole subplot was, because it didn't advance the main plot at all.
It was just...
Except getting Lamia killed. She runs out and gets gunned down by Grendel's own soldiers.
It was just to flesh out the characters, I guess. Which, these are pretty interesting characters, so whatever.
I mean, if by flesh out you mean...
Kill.
Yeah. Because Grendel's soldiers kill Lamia, she comes out, and Grendel's like, no, you fools! That was Madame Lamia.
But then he really doesn't care at all after that.
Except for the fact that no one's going to build him any more androids.
Yeah.
So now the doctor and K9 are running. Oh, and Romana escapes, actually, with the help of
a horse. She's like, go, beast, go.
And Reinhardt. Reinhardt fakes death, and she's like, help, and she runs away.
Right. The doctor and K9 escape by blasting open a little piece of the shed. This is where you realize it looks like paper. Because the K9 has to cut it.
A hole through it.
And the doctor mentions that they would get through faster with cutting with a blunt knife or something
No,
like
that
that.
was later on. That was in the one cutting into the course. And I remember because I wrote down that line because it was funny.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
K9.
so they've all escaped.
And they're running, and the doctor's like, every man for himself, K9. And he just abandons K9. Because Romana shows up and lifts the doctor onto her horse. And the doctor's like, do you know how to control this thing? She's
He's
like,
gonna pilot one of these. We didn't mention the scene, or the little part of the scene where Romana and Reinhardt escape, where they trick the guard by pretending Reinhardt's in trouble, and they come in and Romana has these handcuffs on, and she knocks the guard out by hitting him over the head with, I guess, the metal handcuffs she's wearing, but the guard's wearing a metal helmet. So I'm like, wow, it's a pretty useless helmet. I thought it was funny.
well, metal on metal can... maybe it didn't get knocked out from the force alone. Maybe it was the noise created by the metal upon metal reverberating throughout your skull.
No, I don't think so. I like to think it was just a really badly made helmet.
Maybe it's the same one Grendel wears later.
It looks like it.
Anyway,
It
yeah,
probably was based on the budget of this show.
Reinhardt doesn't escape because he's dying.
Oh yeah, he tells Romana, go on without me. And she's like, no, I can't. And he's like, no, you have to. And then she does. And he's like, wait, no, I didn't mean it. No, he doesn't do
No,
that.
he doesn't do that. 'Cause she's gonna actually go get help from the doctor anyway. So they make it back to the house, and Grendel shows up under a flag of truce. So Pharaoh's like, Zettel, you're not allowed to kill him. So Grendel talks with the doctor for a bit, and then he's like, but you can't have a king if he's dead, and then throws his spear into the android, Reinhardt, and then makes a break for it, making off with Romana again.
Yeah.
One
kind of-
wonders why Romana even escaped again. Once again, David Fisher integrating these subplots that just don't do anything for the main plot.
I liked it. It sort of complicated things, made them less straightforward and more interesting. But there was also that effect where when Grendel throws the spear and it turns from the actual actor who plays Reinhardt/Android into just the dummy, looked kind of cool.
Well, they did some impressive special effects this serial with the two Mary Tams in the same room, and you couldn't actually really tell where the split in the room was. I'm not talking about the part where they just cut back and forth between them. But so now they're like, well, Romana's been captured, our android is bust, looks like we're gonna have to invade the castle, and then episode 3 ends. Episode 4 begins with them doing that.
Yeah. So they actually do. They try and go.
Also,
Invade
K9
the
mowed
castle.
down the 4 guards that Grendel had with him.
Yeah.
He just stands and goes bzz, bzz, and kills them all. Or stuns them, but it's never really stated. I think Grendel shows up at the house later alone. Maybe? No, wait. He has some guards with him, but presumably not the same ones.
I mean,
Just gonna
K9
pretend they're dead because it's more interesting.
K9 Mark II has stunned more people than he's killed, I think.
Yeah.
So I think it would be safe to assume that they're just stunned, but I don't know if we're gonna assume that.
We never actually decided if we would dead unless assumed not dead, or not dead unless proven dead.
Well, here's the thing. When we, like, in our earlier episodes, we'd say, unless they're confirmed dead, we're not going to put them on. And then we kind of stopped doing that. We kind of started saying, unless they're confirmed knocked out, we're just going to assume they're dead.
Well, no, I think it became we would assume they were dead if they were killed, but if they were hit by something that would obviously kill someone, like getting shot.
Yeah, of course, but this is one of those times when it's ambiguous.
Right, I think then it's best to assume that
they're dead.
K9 didn't just mow down this entire regiment of troops.
But it is more interesting to assume he did.
Well, these are the only 4 that I think are unambiguous, that are ambiguous, because I'm pretty sure it's stated that those electro swords kill people.
Yeah, no, these are the only 4 where it can really be disputed. But I don't know. Not that it really matters, it's just 4 random guards.
Those guards had families,
They had
friends,
their own lives.
They had lives that they're not going to get to go home to. Or that they
Sucks to be
will
them.
if they
In
just
a
got
coffin.
knocked out by K9.
I said something a lot more dark.
Yeah, you went for the gallows humor.
Anyway,
Well, we'll decide off air if we're going to count them or not.
off air, yeah, we do this live.
We should do a live show. Nothing could go wrong with that, right? So the doctor takes K9 and they row across the
Moat. I thought it was it wasn't really, you don't really know if it's a moat because you don't really see it from very far away, but
it's probably just a lake out back behind the BBC, and they just shot it from some angles to make it look like a moat.
A lake behind the BBC, like right in the heart of London.
Yeah.
No, this serial really did seem like they just drove out a little bit into the countryside. But hey, it worked. It seemed like it was all on location.
Hey, if you can save budget by doing that, then why not? So they decide to row out into the moat.
On a lawnmower.
And they're cutting through the secret entranceway, and the doctor's like, a hamster with a blunt knife could do this quicker than you, K9. And he's like, you told me to be quiet. So the doctor is like, okay, be careful, K9. And then he proceeds to trip and fall as he gets out of the rowboat. He's like, ah! And K9's like, Master? And the doctor's like, don't worry, I'm fine. Just be careful and guard the moat. And he just shoves the boat out into the moat.
Yeah.
He shoves the boat into the moat.
Yeah, no.
So this is actually when Grendel is enacting super secret plan number 7, which is he'll marry Reinhardt to Romana, pretending Romana is Strella. Then he'll kill Reinhardt, marry Strella, become
the advisor to the queen, kill Strella, and become the king.
Yes, Strella actually being Romana, but he would also kill the real Strella to prevent his deception getting out.
He tells someone this. I guess it's Romana.
It's Romana.
She's like, you'll never get away with this.
He tells Romana that if she doesn't, he would just kill Strella anyway. Although, one wonders why she goes through with it if she's going to get killed in the course of this plan, and also so would Strella anyway.
I guess she just cares about the planet for whatever reason. Even though she's shown herself not to care about the situation too much before.
I think the doctor's rubbing off on her.
Yeah, I do too. Slightly. But I think she does have a certain amount of, not
empathy.
Interest, but yeah, to begin with. I don't think she's completely cold-hearted.
No, obviously. But I think the doctor's being with the doctor has had an effect on her. Which I guess we'll talk more about soon.
Whenever she gets written out. We totally don't know when that is.
So... Well, never mind. So they're getting married. Grendel's been super suspicious with the what was his name?
Who?
Cyril Shaps.
Oh, the Archimandrite.
Yeah,
he calls the Archimandrite in, and he's like, "Why couldn't you just gotten your own bishop to do this?" And he's like, "This is a special marriage. It's between."
Reinhardt and Strella.
It's between Reinhardt and this person who looks exactly like the queen.
And then he's like, and then Reinhardt will have a fatal accident, and then I'll need you to marry me to Strella.
Yeah, why does he tell the Archimandrite?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
And why does the Archimandrite seem not to care? Maybe he's the real villain of this serial.
Cyril. I was going to say Cyril was a villain in his previous 2 appearances, but that's not actually true.
No. It's not at all.
He was in his last appearance, but even then he was kind of just a lackey to the villain. In his appearance before that.
He was just following orders, guys.
That doesn't excuse what he did. Anyway. Wasn't it Ambassadors of Death, not in The Invasion? Or was he also in the Ambassadors of Death? I think he was also in the Ambassadors of Death. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that's what the one I was thinking of. What the heck is the Invasion then?
The Invasion was the one with the dinosaurs.
Oh,
no,
he wasn't.
The Invasion was the Cybermen. Invasion of the Dinosaurs was the dinosaurs one.
Yeah, I was thinking of Ambassadors of Death. He was in that.
Yeah, not the Invasion. Okay. Anyway,
Invasion is just
maybe you got it mixed up because he was in Tomb of the Cybermen, right?
I think so.
So, whatever. We're not well versed in Cyril Shaps' filmography. So the wedding is going on, and they're like, "Do you, Strella, take Reinhardt?" And the doctor's like, "No." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Hello, Romana."
Is this not a good time? He says something like that.
He's like, "Hello, Romana. Are you at the bit where I'm allowed to say why these two shouldn't be married?" And he's like, "No."
So then they talk for a while, and they decide, the doctor and Grendel decide they need to fence it out.
Well, Grendel wants to just kill the doctor, and the doctor's like, didn't bring my sword.
You wouldn't kill an unarmed man, would you? Based on Grendel's character, you would assume that he just would, but...
Also, basically stealing that line from Pirate Planet, but okay.
That's not like a very specific line. I'm sure that's in many, many things, both in the Doctor Who canon and not.
I feel like this is only like the second, maybe third time it's appeared in this show, and we've watched like 12, 16 years of this show.
In this show, but it's not like a very specific line that you wouldn't think of, you know?
I
You know what I mean?
I just like ratting on David Fisher for stealing things from the Pirate Planet.
Anyway, Grendel takes a sword off the wall. It looks
he gives the Doctor his sword and takes a sword off the wall.
Yeah.
They're both electro sabers, and this is the part where it seems the rules for activating the electricity seem to be completely arbitrary.
I don't know.
Yeah,
we had a discussion a while ago about fencing swords. I remember that. It was in Sea Devils.
Yeah.
We still don't know which swords are which, but these are electro swords, so I guess they're different.
I guess we didn't mention the humorous scene where Zadok slices off a piece of the Doctor's scarf, and then he doesn't want to help Farah because Zadok sliced a piece of his scarf, and he's like, what about my scarf?
So they fight for like 20 minutes.
It's actually like 11, but okay.
Might as well have been 20.
Yeah, this is one of my complaints about the serial, is that this fight scene went on way too long.
Yeah, it did.
I guess it kind of ties into the rest of the plot because it gives a chance for Romana to escape and go help Stella, and then also for Reinhardt to open the gates for all of his troops to come rushing in and storm the castle, I suppose.
Yeah, but it still didn't need to be as long as it was. Of course, they just did it to draw out the episode, but...
Yeah,
whatever.
Eventually the Doctor gets Grendel's helmet off, and then Grendel's like, I never surrender, and then he jumps off the building and it's like, yeah, you don't surrender, but you do run away like a coward.
I thought he was just gonna kill himself, but it turns out the moat was right there, so he jumped into the moat and swam away really slowly.
And then the Doctor's like, hey, you forgot your hat.
He throws it back down. And Gwen was like, hey, thanks. No.
No. He was more like, as he was swimming across the moat.
Help, I can't swim. No.
Help! Didn't think this through. So
No, he gets away.
the Doctor
Possibly
goes
to
back.
return. I don't know.
The Doctor goes back in the short story sequel to the story, yes. The Doctor goes back to the main room and is like, okay, Reinhardt, so where's Romana? Reinhardt's trying to give the Doctor all of this stuff, like pieces of the kingdom and stuff. And I was like, no, I just want Romana and the key to time and I'll be gone. So they go hunt down Romana, and she's,
Hanging out with Strella. Learning
Yeah.
how to weave.
we forgot to mention the creepy scene where one of Grendel's guards busted in on Strella. I was like, ha ha ha. Then Romana busts in and smashes the painting on his head. Then they're like, hey,
Yeah.
you look like
pretty
me, yo.
Useless helmets. Again.
He didn't have a helmet
He
on.
didn't have a helmet?
No. He gets the painting smashed over his head, and then Strella smashes the pot on his head.
Well, I mean, the most useless helmets are ones that you don't even put on in the first place.
I mean, I guess that's true.
Anyway, they walk in, and the Doctor does, and he's like, hey, Romana, let's go. She's like, hey, I'm Strella. He's like, oh, sorry. And he turns to Romana, and he's like, hey, Romana, let's go.
Yeah, then because I guess they didn't have enough time, they decided to draw the plot with an extra minute or two of them looking for the piece of the key to time. And then the Doctor's like, haha, I've already got it in my pocket.
An extra 5 minutes of Princess Peladon getting captured. No, I don't know. Whatever her name was. It wasn't Princess Peladon, it was something
It is
else.
now. The sequel, Princess of Peladon.
So, yeah, the Doctor scolds Romana for losing the key to time. Pretty out of character for Romana, but I guess you can't.
Yeah,
I guess you can't
well-
blame her with all the stuff that's been happening.
Well, she lost it because Lamia took it and never gave it back to her, and Romana never had a chance to go get it. The Doctor doesn't really know this, so
Still kind of out of character for Romana,
yeah,
but I don't blame her.
no. They go to, so then they're like, oh no, K9, and they go to
They go out to
this
the moat.
ending. They go to the top of the castle and look out at the moat, and they're like, K9, and he's like, Monster? And he's like sitting in a boat in the middle of
The doctor's like, don't hurt yourself, K9. He's like, don't worry, master. I'm well versed in boats. Or something like that. And then it ends.
Yeah, it turns out Michael Hayes' son was in the boat, navigating it while K9 was in there. It's kind of just spinning in a circle, and K9's like, help!
Wow, immersion ruined. No.
I'd like to know how they plan to get that boat back. I assume they're just going to row another boat out there to go get it.
Maybe they'll send an android out to retrieve it. They are their robotic slaves, after all. There was that little line about the doctor being worried about the androids gaining too much intelligence. That never came into play, except maybe I guess it did in Robots of Death, like before. I thought this was actually going to be a prequel or sequel or like interquel to Robots of Death, but it wasn't.
Nope. So that concludes the plot of this serial. Apparently it was
Ripped off from
blatantly
something
taken
else.
straight from the plot of The Prisoner of Zenda, some novel. It was published eventually at some point. I don't actually know the exact date. And apparently, obviously, they changed it to make it more sci-fi.
And more Doctor Who.
Apparently, it was so inspired, quote-unquote, by that book that the original working title for this serial was The Androids of Zenda. But they changed that for obvious reasons. But I liked the setting of this serial.
Yeah.
The world. I like that they took sci-fi technology and dumped it on a medieval world. Those are always my favorite kinds of stories.
Yeah.
Like
Dune.
yeah.
Except that's not
Not really.
medieval.
Yeah.
It's more like...
Well, like,
it's more like Middle Eastern.
like Egypt,
so.
Middle East, yeah. Like dumping these technologies on time periods that wouldn't normally have these technologies.
Yeah. I also liked how a lot of the times when you get the political intrigue, it's sort of a subplot or a backstory, and it's usually not very interesting. But here it was one, it was easy to understand. Mm-hmm. Two, it was the main conflict, so it worked.
Yeah. It was basically the driving force behind this serial. Was also interesting, unlike some of the other political intrigue we've had on this show. But, I mean, I guess my chief complaint about the serial, which was also my complaint last week, which I guess is just a David Fisher thing and not... because it hasn't happened...
David Fisher problems?
Well, because he always introduces these subplots that have no bearing on the plot and are immediately undone. Like, for example, last week we had Romana escaped the hyperspace ship, went to... the house, found out about, who, what's her name was, and then who Vivian was, like, proof, and then by the time she got back to the hyperspace ship, the Doctor had already resolved the plot, so, like, Romana didn't need to escape, and then here we have, like, Romana escaping only to meet the Doctor, help him back to the shack, and then get immediately recaptured. It's like, why did she even need to escape? It feels like very blatant, obvious padding.
Maybe they just wanted to pull that gag with her on the horse. And hey, if so, it was worth it.
No, it wasn't. It was not worth it at all. And also the plot with the meeting in the android Romana, like, that didn't add anything to the plot at all, except getting Lamia killed.
What was cool?
That one was, I guess, okay because it built
it was a little confusing, and you're like, "Whoa, what's happening?" And
it
you're
built
like,
on Grendel's character and killed Lamia. We hadn't said that enough. But I don't know. It's just it seems that David Fisher always writes good 3-episode serials, realizes he needs a whole other episode out of it, and throws in all these extra subplots that get resolved almost immediately.
Well, last week it seemed like he wanted more to write that final episode and just use the other 3 episodes as an excuse, and hey, you have to write a story about Stonehenge and the Kaliak, so here you go. And then he's like, okay, here's the Megara, here's what I really wanted to write about. It didn't seem like that this week, obviously, because it was a more coherent story. But
yeah, I mean,
whatever.
I think these random subplots kind of knock the story from being amazing, great, to just being good.
I didn't really care. I liked the... Because, I mean, it would have been way too straightforward had they not introduced some of those things.
You can add subplots. What I'm saying is the ones specifically in this serial get resolved within like 2 minutes of them being introduced, and they're like just there to pad the runtime. Like if you're gonna have a subplot, have it be a running thing, or like have it be a plot.
They always do that though.
But not as blatantly obvious as this. Like
I didn't have a problem with Lamia's character or the way she died.
Well, what I'm saying is like the plots that have Romana do something that doesn't add to the main plot. Like the subplots you're talking about add to the main plot.
I'm telling you, that was just for that gag on the horse, and it was one of the best parts of the serial.
But it's like, if you're gonna have a subplot, have it add to the main plot instead of being a side plot that's just there just because, is what I'm saying.
Or have it result in a funny joke.
No.
It's also worth it.
No, it's not.
It's probably more worth it.
No, not
Well, I don't think
all.
we'll ever agree on that.
It's not worth it at all. They could have got that gag in and then had Romana stick around for episode 4, like had episode 4 be like them rescuing Reinhardt and Strella. Because he's got Strella in the castle, he can do a fake marriage between Reinhardt and Strella, so episode 4 could have been Romana and the Doctor busting in to get the piece of the key to time back, which would have also made it more tie into the overarching plot, and they could have married Strella instead of Romana, and that would have arguably been more interesting.
That would have been good too. They wouldn't have introduced Grendel's convoluted other plan to marry and kill a bunch of people. But I liked what they did, and I think even if they had done what you said, we'd be complaining about, well, maybe Romana didn't really do anything here either. Maybe she was just along for the ride, but obviously we don't know, because that's a what-if scenario.
Maybe. It's just irritating to me that he introduces these plots for Romana where she, like, escapes, or, you know, she goes off to go do something exciting, and then it's just completely for nothing. It's like how we complained that when Barbara and Susan were on screen, like, only one of them would do something interesting, and the other one would just, you know, mess around for an episode or two. And it's like, that's what David Fisher is doing with Romana. She's just messing around at this point.
Well, of course, ideally you want the characters to do stuff, but hey,
yeah,
there were a lot of funny parts in the serial, and at this point, that's what I'm really looking for in this show, is just maybe a laugh or two.
Yeah, well.
Not really.
It was good. Wasn't amazing, but it was decent. Not the best this season, but definitely good.
But
anyway.
Definitely not the worst.
No, by far not the worst.
That would be Stone's Blood.
That would be Lost Week. So, anything else you want to say?
Not really.
Okay. Email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, thoughts on David Fisher. I think he writes 2 more serials coming up, so
He writes the next 2. No.
we get to complain even more about his subplots. Or at least I do.
You do.
Check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you like the show, and tell your friends about the show.
Check us on Facebook. Check us out on Facebook. Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter, TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week we watch The Power of Kroll. But until then, the end.